Wasabi guys, welcome back to another Commander Pickups video. I got 5 more cards here. The theme is for Commander Precons, so I know a lot of you guys, you look for these, and then a couple years later, they're a little bit more expensive because they haven't been printed too often. But this year's Commander products, I think, offer a lot of good long-term cards. Cards that, while they're cheap right now, we know the pattern, we know that these are likely to go up. But before I get into the video, first I would like to remind you, if you have not already, please do subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. We're past 29,000 subs, couldn't do it without a lot of you who are sharing the videos. Whenever you interact by leaving comments, you know, just the little things, it is appreciated. And also, if you want to become a channel member, that's a new way that you can support me. We've been killing it all 2021, so let's begin here with the first card from Commander 2021, Excavation Technique. Now, this demonstrate keyword I think has a ton of potential because anytime you get to copy a spell and get twice the impact, you usually have a pretty good card. Now, a small theme with Strixhaven, it was mostly with the black and white cards. There was politics, so you're helping out one player at the table, which in Commander is not always a bad thing. If you're able to help someone else out, they might help you out, and you don't always have to help out the strongest player. You could help out the weakest player, that way you don't get burned. But with Excavation Technique, destroying a target non-land permanent is pretty solid, even though you do give them 2 treasure tokens for their trouble. Why I like this card so much is that because it's more political, you could have 3 targets that you really want to get rid of. And let's say the same player owns all 3 of those targets, they'll get 6 treasures, but you get to destroy all 3 of them. And that's how you play Excavation Technique. You play it when you're behind, you play it when someone else has an established board presence. They got a ton of enchantments that are a pain to normally get rid of, ton of artifacts even. This is how you deal with planeswalkers. I think this is a great card. It is sorcery speed for 4 mana, but to potentially get rid of the 3 best non-land permanents for just that 4 mana, I think is great. And the next one here is from the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms Commander, Mantle of the Ancients. Another white card. You're going to see white cards because Commander products include a lot of very strong support for that color. This aura is incredible. Mantle of the Ancients makes it so that you get back all of your auras and equipment, and you get to attach them to a creature, which I think is just ridiculous for only paying that 5 mana. I think for 7 or more mana, this would still be worth it. And in addition to that, it doesn't just bring it back, which I think would be good enough on its own. The creature gets +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to it. I know aura and equipment decks aren't that interesting. They all kind of do something similar, and they all kind of win the same way, but this is a very good win more card for aura and equipment strategies. And being this cheap right now, I think a lot of people are jumping on it because it fits into so many of those decks, and there's really no reason not to play it. One of the biggest downsides for the longest time if you're playing an aura or equipment deck is the ability to recover. And you have other ways of bringing back enchantments and equipments, but not too many like this, where you bring them all back at once, you don't have to pay any equip costs, and you get them all attached free of any additional cost, and you get a huge buff. I think that's incredible. Another one here from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms is Vengeful Ancestor. This 4 mana red spirit dragon has a very powerful ETB and attack trigger. You get to goad a target creature, but that's not just the only reason why you're playing it. Whenever a goaded creature attacks, it deals 1 damage to its controller. So it has great stats, it has evasion, making it easy to attack with it, and it's going to fit in pretty well with a lot of decks. The immediate one that comes to mind is Marisi, but there's also Karazakar, who is a commander option in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. So you get a payoff here for Goad. If Goad ever becomes a stronger strategy, like we get a lot more support for it, we get a payoff here in Vengeful Ancestor, and the payoff is any kind of benefit to synergizing with a specific keyword. So if you're filling your deck with a lot of Goad cards, this is what you have as a payoff, because they're going to be taking damage each time their goaded creatures attack. Another cheaper card I think has a lot of potential. Great ETB, so there are more ways of benefiting from this outside of combat. I would totally look out for it. And another one I think is really flying under the radar, but is just so strong because people always look for double strike, Sigarda's Vanguard from the Midnight Hunt precon deck. It's flash and flying, which I think is great. Great keywords. You can flash this into play in response. You can flash this into play during combat. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, you choose any number of creatures with different powers. Those creatures gain double strike until end of turn. Now, the specific precon that it came in wasn't very desirable, not the best commander options, but I think this card is. This card belongs in a lot of Keywords Matters decks, or any kind of deck where Double Strike for a lot of your creatures just wins you the game. Now, it's not going to give that to all of your creatures. Of course, some of your creatures are going to share a power, but the obvious benefit here is for things like Voltron, where you have one massive creature that's doing all of your damage. And if you're building a deck around this, it's not too difficult to figure out that you need to have variety in your power, so when you do get to Sigarda's Vanguard, you're not just giving Double Strike to one or two creatures, you're giving it to several, but it has a lot of potential. Anything that can give Double Strike is usually strong in Commander. And then the last card here, I talked about it as a card to cut from the Crimson Vow Precon deck, but Shadowgrange Archfiend, 7 mana demon. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacks a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control, and you gain life equal to the greatest power among creatures sacrificed this way. I think that is incredible because it's in addition to a lot of other things that we've already seen. If you love Grave Pact, if you love Fleshbag Marauder-like creatures, here you have another one that doesn't force you to sacrifice a creature. It's a bit more expensive, but it's definitely worth it since you are getting rid of the best creatures. They're not going to be sacrificing little tokens or mana dorks. You're getting their biggest attackers. Also a little benefit there with Madness, so it fits in automatically to something like Anji Falconwrath. That deck's all about Madness. Any way of discarding this, and you get it for much cheaper. You do pay 8 life, but since you gain life, that's pretty much inconsequential. I think a lot of cards from these precon decks are flying under the radar, and precon cards typically do because there's no limited environment for precon decks, so it's not like people get a quick chance to experiment with cards like they do with expansions. So the cards that you've seen here today, you have to kind of experiment on your own. And since something like this doesn't really synergize with vampires, it's an easy cut from that precon deck, and an even easier inclusion in a lot of great aristocrat decks, a lot of decks that benefit off of sacrificing. But anyway, let me know what you think about these 5 Commander pickups, all pretty cheap cards, all I believe have a strong future in Commander. Again, subscribe, like, comment, share, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Commander Void here, I will see you next time.